When evil people rise and good people suffer, God has an answer. Why is it that bad people seem to succeed? Have you ever sat back and wondered that maybe you were scrolling through social media or watching the news and saw someone who lies, cheats, hurts others, and lives completely opposite of God's ways, yet they seem to have it all? The money, the power, the fame, the followers, the influence, everything the world calls success. And then you looked at your own life. You try to live right, you try to honor God, you try to do good, even when no one's watching. And yet, things feel hard. You struggle. You're not getting ahead. You feel overlooked, forgotten, maybe even punished for doing what's right. And deep inside, you ask quietly, maybe even shamefully, Lord, why? Why do bad people succeed and people like me struggle? You're not alone. That question has echoed in the hearts of believers for thousands of years. In fact, it's in the Bible. In Psalm 73, a man named Asaph, a worship leader, someone close to God, writes openly about how he almost gave up. He was deeply troubled by the prosperity of the wicked. He saw arrogant people living in ease, while the righteous were afflicted. And he said something honest. Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure. Maybe you've felt that way too, that maybe it doesn't pay to do good, that maybe integrity doesn't really matter in this world, that maybe playing by the rules only gets you pain. But friend, I want to speak to your heart today, not from a place of cliché answers or religious slogans, but from a place of real, raw faith, a place where we wrestle with what we see, but choose to hold on to what we believe, because what we see isn't always the full story. And what we believe, that God is good, that He is just, that He sees and He knows, that matters more than ever when life doesn't make sense. So I invite you to lean in with me today. This isn't just about asking a hard question, it's about finding hope in the middle of it. It's about discovering a deeper kind of trust. It's about seeing success the way God sees it. It's about realigning our hearts when everything in this world tries to throw us off. You see, the success of the wicked is temporary, but the favor of God that lasts forever. The story is bigger than what you see on the surface. The stage isn't set for comfort, it's set for eternity. And God hasn't missed a single detail of your life. So, let's go on this journey together. Let's take our questions, our frustrations, even our doubts, and bring them to the one who holds the answers. He's not afraid of your honesty. He invites it, because from that place, He can show you something greater, something eternal, something unshakable. Let's begin. Part 1. The age-old question. Let's go all the way back to an ancient cry of the heart, a raw, emotional, painfully honest cry from someone who loved God, but couldn't make sense of life. In Psalm 73, Asaph opens up about something that nearly broke him. He says, "But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold, for I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." Can you feel the weight of that? This wasn't someone who had walked away from faith. This was someone who was close to God, a worship leader in the temple. But what he saw in the world nearly shook his faith to the core. He saw wicked people living carefree lives. They weren't struggling. They weren't in pain. They weren't worried about right or wrong. In fact, they were flaunting their sin, and yet they seemed untouchable. Rich, popular, powerful. And Asaph looked at himself. Someone trying to walk in purity. Someone seeking God. And he asked, "Have I kept my heart pure in vain?" Maybe you've asked the same. You've watched others cheat the system and get promoted. You've seen dishonest people build platforms and grow followers. You've seen those who mock God live lavishly. And in your quiet moments, you've whispered, "God, where are you in this?" It's an age-old question. Jeremiah asked it. Habakkuk asked it, Job asked it, even the disciples. when they saw a rich man walk away from Jesus, asked, "Then who can be saved?" And the truth is, we ask this question because we long for justice. We long for fairness. We were made in the image of a just God, and so when life feels unjust, it offends something deep inside us. But what we often forget is that what we see isn't the whole picture. Asaph writes that everything changed when he entered the sanctuary of God. It wasn't until he got into God's presence that he saw clearly. He realized their success was like a dream, fleeting, fragile, and headed for a fall. And that's where we need to begin, too. When we see the wicked prosper, it's not a sign that God has lost control. It's not a sign that evil has won. It's a reminder that what we see is not eternal. The world can reward sin for a moment, but God sees the end from the beginning. And He's not done writing the story yet. So instead of letting envy grow or doubt take root, bring it all to God. He's not offended by your questions. He invites you closer. And in His presence, you'll find clarity. Because when you're face to face with eternal truth, the glitter of temporary success loses its shine. Part 2. Defining success. God's way versus others. The world's way. Now that we've asked the question, let's challenge the definition. What is success, really? Because here's the thing, a big part of our struggle comes from how we measure success. The world has taught us to measure it in wealth, status, followers, fame, comfort, and influence. The person with the most toys, the biggest bank account, the flashiest lifestyle, they win. But is that how God sees it? Jesus said something radical in Luke 12. He told a story about a rich man whose land produced a great harvest. The man said to himself, "I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. I'll store up all this grain and live the good life. Eat, drink, and be merry." Sounds like a success story. Right, but God called him a fool, because that very night his soul would be required of him and everything he stored up would be worthless. Why? Because he was not rich toward God. Let that sink in. The world saw him as rich. God saw him as empty. That's the danger of chasing worldly success. It blinds us to what matters most. It builds a life on sand, not on rock. It fills our hands, but leaves our souls starving. But God's definition of success, it's deeper, truer, eternal. It looks like faithfulness, obedience, love, holiness. It looks like the fruit of the Spirit growing in you. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. It looks like laying down your life to serve others. It looks like humility when you could demand attention. It looks like forgiving when it hurts. Choosing truth when lies are easier. Staying faithful when no one's watching. God's success is quiet sometimes, hidden, uncelebrated in the eyes of the world. But heaven sees it, and heaven rewards it. Jesus said in Matthew 6, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, but store up treasures in heaven, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So when it feels like you're losing because you're choosing righteousness, remember you're storing treasure in a place that can never be touched. And when you look at someone who has everything on the outside but is far from God, remind yourself that's not success. That's a soul in danger. True success is knowing Jesus, walking with Him, hearing His voice, becoming more like Him every day. That kind of success, it doesn't fade, it doesn't rust, it doesn't need applause, and it never ends in regret. So hold your head high. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You are living for something greater. And one day, when you stand before the only throne that matters, you'll hear the words, "This world can never give you. Well done, good and faithful servant." And that is the greatest success of all. Part 3. Why does God allow it? Let's be honest, even when we understand that true success is eternal, it's still hard to watch people live wickedly and rise publicly. It still stings. And sometimes it makes us wonder, God, why are you allowing this? Why would a good God, a just God, let bad people prosper while good people suffer? It's a question that gets right to the heart of our faith. Because deep down, we want God to act, and we want Him to act now. We want to see the wicked fall and the righteous rise. We want the consequences to come quickly. We want justice on our schedule, but God doesn't operate on our timeline. You see, sometimes what we think is God's delay is actually His mercy. Romans 2:4 says something powerful. Do you show contempt for the riches of His kindness, forbearance, and patience, not realizing that God's kindness is intended to lead you to repentance? In other words, just because someone isn't judged immediately doesn't mean they've escaped justice. Sometimes it's that God is giving them time to repent, time to turn around, time to come to Him before it's too late. That might be hard to hear, especially if you've been hurt by someone who's still walking free. But God sees every wound, He hears every cry, and He will not overlook evil. He just doesn't rush judgment because He loves even the wicked enough to give them a chance to change. Think about it. If God judged instantly, would any of us be here? We've all sinned. We've all fallen short. And thank God He didn't give up on us the moment we failed. He waited. He drew us in. He gave us mercy upon mercy. So when you see someone living wrong and succeeding, it's not a sign that God is okay with it. It might be the last chapter of mercy before judgment comes. Because here's the truth. God's justice will come. Every knee will bow. Every wrong will be made right. But it will happen His way, not ours. Our job isn't to demand when. Our job is to trust that He will. And until that day, we pray, we forgive, we surrender our anger, we keep our eyes on Him, because bitterness will poison your soul faster than injustice ever could. Don't let someone else's sin take your peace. Don't let someone else's prosperity make you question God's faithfulness. He's still good. He's still in control. And He's still writing the story perfectly. Part 4. Lessons we learn through injustice. If you've ever walked through injustice, and let's face it, most of us have, then you know how deeply it tests your heart. It's one thing to forgive a stranger, but when someone wrongs you, lies about you, takes what you've worked for, or climbs higher by stepping on you, that hits differently. And if that person seems to succeed while you struggle, it can feel like a knife in the soul. But here's the beauty in the middle of the pain. God uses even injustice to shape you. James 1:2-4 tells us something radical. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Think about that. God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't ignore injustice. He uses it. He redeems it. He transforms it into the very thing that builds your strength. When someone wrongs you and you choose forgiveness over revenge, you grow. When you feel overlooked but still stay faithful, your roots go deeper. When you see the wicked win for a moment and still cling to righteousness, you are becoming more like Christ. Because remember, Jesus knows what it means to be treated unfairly. He was betrayed, lied about, beaten, rejected, crucified, and through it all, He never sinned, never struck back, never gave up. He trusted the Father. And if Jesus, the perfect, holy Son of God, suffered injustice, why do we think we'll be spared from it? The truth is, some of the greatest lessons of faith are learned in the fire. Some of the deepest parts of your character are formed when life feels unfair.
It's in those moments you discover who you really are and, more importantly, who God really is. So if you're in that place right now, if you've been treated unjustly, if you're carrying wounds that haven't healed, if you're watching someone live in victory while you walk through the valley, let God meet you there. Ask Him to teach you, to shape you, to guard your heart from bitterness,
To lift your head, to remind you that your reward isn't coming from people, it's coming from Him. The world may celebrate the wicked for a season, but God crowns the faithful for eternity. And when you stand before Him one day, you'll realize it was all worth it. Every tear, every battle, every injustice, all of it was preparing you for glory.
Part 5. The final outcome. God's justice will prevail. Let's talk about something we need to hold on to tightly, especially when life doesn't seem fair. God's justice is real, and it will prevail. It might not happen in your timing. It might not happen the way you expect, but justice will come. Psalm 37 is a powerful reminder of this. If you've never read it, go read the whole thing. It's written for moments just like the one we're talking about. David says, "Do not fret because of evildoers, or be envious of those who do wrong, for like the grass they will soon wither, like green plants they will soon die away." Think about that. Green plants look vibrant, full of life, flourishing, for a season. But what happens when the sun scorches or the seasons change? They wither. That's what worldly success is without God. It looks unstoppable until it's not. And friend, we need to remember we're not living for this season. We're living for what lasts, what's eternal. There's a sobering story Jesus told in Luke 16. It's the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man lived in luxury every single day. He had everything. And there was a poor man, Lazarus, lying at his gate, covered in sores, begging. In the eyes of the world, the rich man was blessed, successful, powerful. But in eternity, everything flipped. The rich man was in torment, and Lazarus was comforted. You see, eternity has a way of setting the record straight. What people get away with here, they won't get away with there. What people build without God here won't stand there. And what you suffer for Christ here will be honored and rewarded there. There's a great reversal coming, and we need to live like we believe it. So when the world celebrates the arrogant, stay humble. When others build their kingdom, keep building God's. When no one sees your faithfulness, God sees it all. Don't let the temporary success of the wicked make you question the eternal faithfulness of God. He is just, He is holy, He is righteous, and in the end, His justice will be complete. Every wrong will be made right, every tear will be wiped away, and every moment you chose righteousness over revenge, integrity over compromise, and truth over applause, it will echo in eternity. Keep your eyes on the finish line. You're closer than you think. Part 6. What about us? Our response matters. So here's the question that brings it home. What are you going to do about all this? How will you respond when life feels unfair? When the wicked seem to win? When doing the right thing doesn't seem to pay off? Because, friend, your response matters more than you realize. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And that's the battle right there. The temptation to give up. To say, what's the point? To stop caring, to stop believing, to stop doing good, because it feels like evil people win and good people lose. But don't quit. Don't stop sowing seeds of faith just because you haven't seen the harvest yet. Don't stop being kind, generous, honest, and faithful just because someone else cut corners and got ahead. They might have the spotlight for a moment, but you have God's hand on your life forever. And when it comes to our response, there's something else we need to guard against: bitterness. Bitterness is sneaky.
It doesn't show up loudly. It creeps in slowly. It sounds like, why bother? God's not fair. I deserve better. I hope they fall. But bitterness never hurts the people you're bitter toward. It only poisons you. It clouds your vision. It hardens your heart. It steals your joy. So if you've been carrying it, let it go. Not because they deserve grace, but because you deserve freedom. You weren't created to carry revenge, resentment, or rage. You were created to shine with the light of Christ, and that light shines brightest in dark places. So what do? You keep your heart soft. You keep your hands clean. You keep your eyes lifted. You pray for those who hurt you. You bless those who curse you. You keep walking in integrity when no one notices. You worship when you don't understand. You trust when it's hard, because when you do, you look like Jesus. And isn't that the goal? So yes, wicked people might rise for a moment, but you rise forever, because the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. And nothing this world can offer compares to the glory that's coming. Stay faithful, stay steady, stay kind. Your reward is coming, and it's better than anything you can imagine. Part 7, Finding Peace in God's Sovereignty. Let's take a deep breath together. Because after all the questions, all the emotions, all the wondering, we need this reminder more than anything. God is still in control. He hasn't fallen asleep. He hasn't gone silent. He hasn't lost track of what's happening in your life or in the world. He sees it all, and He is sovereign over it all. You may not understand everything right now, but you don't have to. What you do need is peace. Not the peace the world gives, temporary, shallow, surface peace, but the peace that comes when you know, deep in your soul, that your Father in heaven is still on the throne. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still, and know that I am God." Not be still, and know that everything is perfect. Not be still, and know you have all the answers. But be still, and know that I am God. That's the anchor in a stormy world. So even if the wicked prosper, God is still God. Even if you're overlooked, God sees you. Even if you feel weak, God is your strength. Even if you're tired, God will renew you. And that kind of peace, the peace that passes all understanding, only comes when you surrender the need to control, to compare, to calculate, and you simply rest in the truth that He's working even when you can't see it. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to rush. You don't have to panic. You just need to stay close to Him. Let Him remind you of who you are. Let Him steady your soul. Let Him whisper truth into the noise of comparison, envy, doubt, and fear. Because once you realize that your life is held by the hands that form the universe, you'll start to breathe again. You'll stop chasing what doesn't last. You'll stop envying what's not real. You'll stop fearing what others seem to have. And you'll walk forward in quiet confidence, not because the world makes sense, but because your God does. That's peace. That's power. That's the life He calls you into. And it's available right now if you'll just let go and trust Him. Conclusion. Living above the storm. So here we are. We started with a question, a hard one. A question that every believer, sooner or later, wrestles with deep in their soul. Why do bad people succeed in life? And maybe we didn't get all the neat answers we wanted. Because life isn't always neat. But we did get truth. Truth that anchors. Truth that heals. Truth that steadies. We saw that this question isn't new. God's people have asked it for generations, and He hasn't rebuked the question. He's met them in it. We learned that worldly success is not the same as eternal success. We saw that God's delay in justice is not absence, it's often mercy. We were reminded that He uses even injustice to shape us, that every wrong will be made right, that your response matters more than your circumstances, that peace is found not in answers, but in trusting the one who holds everything together. So now the real question becomes, how will you live from here? Will you keep chasing what the world calls success, or will you build your life on something greater? Will you let bitterness win, or will you let grace write your story? Will you keep comparing, or will you stay faithful in your lane? Because here's what I know, your calling is too important. Your purpose is too holy. Your eternity is too valuable to waste time being distracted by someone else's highlight reel. Don't trade what's eternal for what's trending. Don't give up on righteousness because it's hard. Don't quit doing good just because the wicked seem to win. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not unseen. You are a child of the Most High God. And He is with you. He is for you. And He is preparing something far greater than anything this world could ever give. So keep showing up. Keep sowing seeds of faith. Keep walking in integrity. Keep trusting, even when it hurts. Because one day, when the crowds are gone, and the applause has faded, and all the earthly success has turned to dust, you will stand before the one who saw it all. And He will look at you with eyes of love and say words that no fame or fortune can ever match. Well done, good and faithful servant. And that, my friend, is the kind of success worth living for. So rise up, stay strong, live above the storm. God's not done with you yet.